raised a hand in our club. You know, the only way I ever got to talk to people was if I did great things. I thought, if I design the first basic 2, if I write it, I'll get famous like Bill Gates. You know, he was known in our club. Only a few hundred people in the country knew him, but they knew his name. I'll get famous in the tech community. And I wrote my own basic. So it was quite an inspiring time. Anyway, Hewlett Packard turns it down. Steve Jobs and I are now selling these computers. And the way we did it with no money, we got the parts on 30 days credit, had the computers built up down in another city. We drove them to the garage, tested them out, and then put them in a box and drove them down to a store and got paid cash. Just these ones. Exactly how we did it. That's exact for half a year. Apple I computer was the first real personal computer formula, and Apple didn't own it. It'd been given away before Apple. But the Apple II design came in 3 months. See, I sat down and I said, how would I design a computer from the ground up? And you know what? Your most creative states are, you think of interesting ideas in these very creative periods, and back in the 60s, you know, it was drugs. But I wouldn't use drugs. So I was at Atari, and I was without sleep. That time we went 4 days and nights, and I thought I saw color on a screen. And then this idea popped in my head of a little $1 chip, a method to generate color, instead of $1,000 of electronics, which was normal. This was an incredible, patentable idea. And when that worked on the Apple II, and I showed Steve Jobs, type in a number here, and a purple square pops on the TV. Type in another number here,
he said,
another number,
sell it.
Yellow pops up. No, we both knew this was such a hot product. It was half as many chips. I'd come up with the best designs of my life. Half as many chips as an Apple I, 10 times faster, color that nobody ever expected in a computer. It had graphics on the screen so you could program moving colors and make animations. Games like Breakout. It had pixels. We even put pixels into it. It cost me 2 extra chips and pixels, like photographs almost. So this was an incredible machine. We knew we weren't giving this one away. But now we knew we could sell 1,000 of them, but how do you make 1,000 computers? You need money, and we had to look for money. Approached a couple companies we knew, told them what we had, made proposals, how much they could pay us and give us jobs in stock, and they turned us down. Commodore and Atari turned us down. And then we ran into venture capital, didn't like the fact they'd say, what's the market? We weren't businessmen. I said, $1 million. How do you know $1 million? I said, well, there's 1 million ham radio operators, and this is bigger than ham radio. So it wasn't business talk, but we got directed to an angel, Mike Markkula. Mike Markkula would invest $250,000 and become an equal partner with Steve and myself. So he had as much of the company as us. He's just more quiet. You don't hear of him too often. And he had made his fortune at Intel on a stock option, and he had done marketing and engineering in his life. But he thought marketing was the important thing, and you should be a marketing-driven company, and he would run our marketing. And he was willing to put in this big amount of money, $250,000 bucks. That's probably millions today. And I had to leave Hewlett Packard. And I didn't want it. And he said, I'll give you till Tuesday to decide. And on Tuesday, I made my decision. I went and told him and Steve Jobs in a private Kamanya, I said, I decided not to start out. Because I want to work for Hewlett Packard for the rest of my life. I've designed all these products while working there on the side. And I love designing computers, but I can do that on my own time. I've proven that. So we left the meeting, and Steve Jobs went into a frenzy, and he got all my friends to call me and relatives. And finally, one friend said the right thing, and he was my only technical friend from back to high school. And he said it was Alan Down, and he said, you can be an engineer, start a company, and become a manager and get rich. Or you can start a company and remain an engineer and get rich. And that's what I needed to hear one person say, that it was okay to start a company, but you didn't have to feel like running it, like being a businessman. Because I'm very much a pacifist. I'm not into conflict. I'm not into politics. I don't want to tell other people what they're, direct other people and force them to do things my way. I just want to do my own greatness, and I can only do that as an engineer, not running a company.
Well, the Apple II, the Apple IIe.
The Apple II, yeah, the Apple II definitely was the machine for the world. It took a little while until the first killer app came out. First spreadsheet called VisiCalc, and all of a sudden businessmen could type in all their expenses and income month by month by month, and on a screen basically see the results. And that was really the achievement of the personal computer, was now more valuable than a lot of big computers. Financial data, and pop out the answers that their big computers, cost them millions of dollars, and high-paid programmers to get. We were going to do it ourselves. Fifth graders were going to do it. And I loved those ideals, so I gave away this computer. I gave away all my designs on paper. I Xeroxed them, passed them out, no copyright notices, all my little code I'd written, the technique. And when people looked over my shoulder and they saw this board with a certain number of little $1 chips on it, doing the entire job of typing into programs, running things, having things pop up on the TV set, the cat was out of the bag. Everyone now knew, oh my gosh, you could actually build an affordable computer. And I hit on the formula. Steve Jobs came by and said,
I can sell it.
you know, yes, yeah. Well, he said, look, we've been partners for so long, you know, we were. And he said, we could start a company to make a PC board so it's easier for people to plug in the parts and solder it together. It would take, you know, a few hours instead of a few days. And we could build this thing for 20 bucks, a little green PC board, and sell it for 40. And we'd have to invest a few $100 each. And I didn't think we'd get our money back. And Steve said, yeah, but for once, the two of us will have our own company. It'll be our company. Who could turn that down? Now, I wasn't going to leave Hewlett Packard. By then, I was an engineer for life. I was designing products that engineers used. I was working with engineers. I loved engineering talk. I was a total geek. And I was never going to go up in management or anything. I only was going to design products the rest of my life. And I would never leave Hewlett Packard. So I proposed it to Hewlett Packard first. I wanted them to do it. And I told Steve, we can't do a company on the side. I'm not going to quit Hewlett Packard. And HP turned me down for the first of 5 times. 5 turned me down. And I was in the calculator division, which was the closest. They would have built the wrong product. They would have. They would have built a product for engineers, and they did eventually. And it was boring and dumb, you know, before they got on the right track. You know, they really did back in those days. So they turned me down, and then Steve called me up one day. I sold my most valuable possession in my life. HP 65 calculator. I sold it for $500, and Steve got a few $100, and I actually only got paid $250. Never got the rest of it. And that was our money. That was our seed money. We had no bank accounts. We had no savings accounts. No money. We were in our young 20s. We had no relatives that could loan us money. No friends that could. We had no business experience. No business classes in college. We're just doing what we could. The little step that we could do. Well, Steve calls me at work and he says, I got an order from the one store in our area wants to buy them completely assembled, 100 computers for $500 each. That's $50,000. And my salary was $24,000. So I got scared. I had Hewlett Packard's legal department send this proposal all the way around to every division of Hewlett Packard because I was not going to leave Hewlett Packard. I loved that company. That was my company forever. And, you know, in 1 year I designed a couple of computers and all sorts of mass storage interfaces and wrote a basic computer language like Bill Gates had done. Bill Gates had written a basic. That was very important. To have a useful computer, you had to buy these little kits that people were selling, kits of parts that did nothing more than my computer I built 5 years before when I met Steve Jobs. But you could plug in enough boards of memory, expensive, and then you could plug in a board that connects to a big teletype that costs as much as a car, and you could eventually run your own program. So a company could use it to run a program with Bill Gates' basic. Instead of being paid cash, we'd ask to look at their mayonnaise jars full of parts, and it's like a few hours.
You go through that. When did you start tinkering and building things?
Absolutely started building things in elementary school. Some huge science fair projects with hundreds of parts soldered together and playing games that would play tic-tac-toe or show every one of the 92 electrons as lights in different orbital orbits of an atom. And this was all elementary school stuff. So very early, I got a ham radio license in elementary school. I had to learn all the radio theory and electronics theory. I had to learn Morse code on a key and build. You bought a kit of parts and you started following instructions and putting knobs on and little strings on them and hooking in vacuum tubes and soldering all the parts underneath. So you built it all yourself. I was, you know, definitely so far advanced in electronics, but I never thought it was unusual. It was just the fun thing I liked to do.
I suppose it was a little bit like growing up here in this area where, you know, the automotive industry was there, it was television, it was radio, it was aeronautics. Everybody did that kind of stuff. That was
the introduction
when they came home.
The introduction by the gentleman of AT&T made me realize it was just very much an innovative invention type place here for the automobile industry, certainly.
Tell us a little bit about